All right. Welcome to episode 1 of the UFC podcast. My guest today is going to be Smiling Sam Alvey. Thanks for coming on, Sam. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful. How are you, sir?
I am doing wonderful. Got first episode getting recorded right now, and I got you on, so I
Oh,
can't complain.
I'm making history. In 10,000 episodes from now, you're gonna look back and say that Sam Alvey is something special.
Absolutely. That's the plan. Just jumping into it, we know Sam Alvey, the fighter, but I started reading your Wikipedia page and I started just, looking into who you are. And the first thing that comes up is that you're a scab fighter and a union buster. And I just had to ask, how does that associate with mixed martial arts?
Well, first off, I'm honored that somebody would say that about me. There is not a picket line I wouldn't cross. So yeah, screw you guys. Uh, no, all that is talking about is I am against the UFC becoming a union. The fighters having their own union. I think that would be a terrible mistake. I think it has done nothing good for boxing. Isn't quite that, but boxing has had what the Ali Act has done nothing to help boxing. And if the UFC were to do that, the roster would go from 800 to 80. They would have 10 shows a year, and they would make sure everyone was Conor McGregor level or not at all. They would spend all of their money on building certain talent, similar to what they do in boxing right
No, it makes total sense. And I think what you said about just eliminating the roster is exactly what's going to happen. They're going to push for equal fighter pay. There's going to be a whole bunch of red tape that everybody has to, go around to get things done. And it's just going to complicate everything. Whereas now, everybody's essentially, you're a 1099 contractor. Is that correct?
now. Yeah.
So, you get to
Yeah.
negotiate everything that you want to do for yourself. And basically, the power of your pay is in your own hands.
Yes, I don't need. Conor McGregor has made more money than me because more people want to watch Conor McGregor. Awesome for him. It gave me something to shoot for. I don't, and actually because Conor McGregor got paid so much, it helped raise the pay of everyone else. If Conor was to be under a contract, to be in a union, he would not have been able to make what he made. He would not have had the drive to do it. He would not have the want to do it. So the pay structure being what it is, and the UFC pays pretty well. The UFC paying what it does has driven people to want to earn that extra money, to want to go out and box the Mayweathers and the Jake Pauls. God, I hate Jake Paul. Hate that. I hate that he's a thing.
I, I unfortunately I was talking to my dad about the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight a couple months ago when it got announced, and I said nobody in their right mind would have a 58-year-old man go into a pro fight. I don't care who you are. Like that's just it's not ethical at a point. And so I said when he's going to ramp up his training and he starts trying to train like a professional athlete again, Mike Tyson is going to get injured. Like there
That was I have somewhere on TikTok. I when it was first announced, I made a post. The fight's not going to happen. There's no way it happens. And I wish I could find that because now it's pushed back from what July to November. Then it'll get pushed back to if the fight happens. Tyson's going to be freaking 75 years old before it does.
I'm still fingers crossed that he has the puncher's chance, but I just can't see how a commission would sanction that fight.
Yeah, my what I think they're doing is it's not an official fight. It's an exhibition match. It's a sparring match. I think that's what it is. So even when the fight happens, I don't suspect it'll be great. But I don't know. They're both of them are saying is oh, I'm going to knock him out. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. We'll see.
Right. And I guess how does the commission, I guess, work? Do you go and get licensed in the state that you're going to fight? Do you have to, pass tests that, health tests, health and safety that the commission puts forward? Is that different in each state that you're fighting in, or how does that work?
For the most part, yes, different in each state. I hate the commissions for the most part. I like the people in them. I just don't think there's any need for them. I think all that should be done with the commission. This is just getting into my talk about union busting, commission busting. I think they should make sure that we don't have anything in our blood. They should make sure we don't have any communicable diseases. That's it. Nothing else should matter for them. But it does. And every state has found a way to make it harder for fighters to be fighters, made it more expensive for fighters to be fighters. Now we have to be licensed. In California, if you want to turn pro, you have to go before a board and demonstrate your skill to turn pro. They just they give all these hoops you have to jump through to make sure it's expensive and unaffordable to become a fighter. When I first started fighting, there was nothing. I mean, my my last 3 fights as an amateur were all in one night, and I won my last one with elbows. That's the rules that we agreed on. Yeah, and it was forever ago, and I miss days like that. Now to have 3 fights in one night, no commission's going to sanction it. You're going to have to go out of country to make it happen. It the government stepped in and made things worse.
Yeah, I mean that makes total sense. I'm coming from a weird position that I'm actually on an Indian reservation right now. So
Oh wow,
I'm up in Montana, so there's no commission in general, but I'm also on a
yeah,
reservation. So when I was in high school, there would just be they called them smokers, and basically you just show up, and if anybody wanted to fight, you throw your hand up, sign a waiver, and you could just hop in there.
yep. I did a it was like a tough guy contest. Like it was
Sure.
just a bunch of old fat guys in boxing gloves. I think that was the. I forget I did that. That was so long ago. But yeah, I did that, and that was. I think I fought twice. I won the first, lost the second, and then didn't go on to the third. But that was it. Was I showed up. I signed up. I think it cost me $50 to fight, and that was fantastic.
That's incredible. If I'm not mistaken, is that a tough jersey that you have on?
It is. I think this is Team Melendez.
All right. So I just had to ask because we had a new season of The Ultimate Fighter start. It was season 16 is what you were on, correct?
I was season 16. Yes, sir.
Okay. And that was at 170 pounds. How in the
Yeah.
world did you make that weight?
Because if the UFC asks, you say yes. They asked, I said, okay, let's do it. They had, I had tried out a few times for the Ultimate Fighter. I tried out at 205, and then they cut the weight class. So I said, okay, I'll do 85, and they cut the weight class. Then I said, okay, I've got time. I can do 70, and then they cut the weight class. Like, well, screw it. I'm never doing it again. So I was back up and floating between 85 and 205, and then I got a call that said, hey, in 30 days, you want to go in the Ultimate Fighter? It's at 170 this time. I'm in. So I cut, I think it was like 38 pounds in 20 days or something. It was a big cut for me to make it, but I made it.
And when they film that, it's essentially going to be like 6 or 8 weeks, depending on what season it's going to be.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It'll be 6 days.
do you kind of just keep your weight as close as you can to that 170 because there's not as much time as a normal training camp to get down?
Uh, yes, especially for what I was doing. I got on there, and as soon as I made weight, I was eating everything. I was trying to get as healthy as I could before my next fight because the next fight comes soon. My next fight was, and I talked to the coaches. The plan was because I was the biggest guy on the show that I'm going to cut twice real quick, and then I'll spend the rest of my time trying to diet down. And it was the wrong call. I got in there. My second weight cut, I just felt like garbage.
Right.
I made the weight. It was an easier cut, but my body was lacking something come fight day. I just had nothing to give.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Um, Man, and of course, season 16 is going to be remembered for the Julian Lane, the clip.
It,
But
the season as a whole wasn't great, but that is the most famous thing to have ever happened in the Ultimate Fighter.
man, and I actually didn't realize that you were so involved. You were standing right there through that clip, and the look in your eyes when he starts screaming, "Let me bang, bro!" must have been an
When I went on the
experience.
show, I had a strict policy: is whatever's happening, be where the cameras are, be in front of the cameras. So I care less about Julian Lane or Michael Hill or what was it, Dom Waters is the other. Couldn't care less. You bang your head, but I wanted to be where the cameras were, and so I was just forcing myself in there. It was a great decision because now, like 3 times a year, that clip makes its rounds on social media again, and I get tagged by everybody. Hey Sam, you're in there. I said, yeah, I sure am.
Yeah, it's
And that was the goal. It paid off.
yeah, it's good thinking. The other clip that I loved from you in that season was just when you were pretending to drink beer or water. I got to get the answer to that. Was there water in the Miller Lite can?
Oh yeah, it was just water. It was yeah. I don't think I fooled anyone. And afterwards, I felt so dumb for trying. But yeah, whatever. I had a good time with it. You get so bored in that house. Um, Comparing it to prison is wrong because I have whatever I want to eat. I have a good, you can play, you can do all that, but you don't have access to the outside world. You're stuck with the same 15 other people. You're not allowed to talk to the camera crew. No books, no radio, no TV, no nothing, and you just get bored. So you just start trying to do whatever you can.
Yeah, yeah. And I do have to be a little critical of the Ultimate Fighter now. I feel like it's lost a little bit of its aura. Do you see any changes in the show? I mean, personally, I would say that removing the fights to get into the house was negative, and possibly even just adding the Contender series has just, diluted some of the upcoming fighters that you would need to be on there.
Yeah, the Contender series changed everything. The Contender series, it is a better way to do it because you can pump fighters out a lot faster. With the Ultimate Fighter, I mean, it's 6 months at a minimum before those fighters can do anything. Now, it does something for building the character of a person. Like, I'm Smiling Sam partially because the Ultimate Fighter helped people see who I was. And you don't get that with the Contender series. Um, but you can pump fighters out a lot faster. You can make Sean O'Malley a lot faster than you can on the Ultimate Fighter. Um, Me personally, like the first 2 seasons of the Ultimate Fighter, probably back before you were even born, goodness, uh, they 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 had competitions, and the first 2 seasons were my favorite season. If you wanted to pick the fight, it's not if you just won; it's whoever carried the most water bottles to the top of the tower, or whoever did this, or whoever did that. Joe Daddy Stevenson, he had the one where he did scarecrows. Whoever did the most scarecrows got to pick the fight. And I loved that. I liked it more when it was a reality TV show with fights at it. They've changed it now to just try and make us care about all these fighters. And to be completely honest, most fighters are incredibly boring. All they talk about is fighting, and it doesn't lead to great things. Every now and then you'll get the guy that climbs, the cream of the crop, the let me bang bro, the guy that just has that personality that puts them over. But without the fun parts, without the competition parts, it's just not what it once was.
Yeah, I get I mean, as a production team, I get why they tried to remove some of those things. It takes a lot more effort to put a show out like they were in the first few seasons than than they're doing now. I mean, now they just have it
Mm-hmm.
streamlined and they're going to push out a show. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but just as a fan, I definitely don't feel the same way as when the Ultimate Fighter would come on TV and I had to tune in. I'm still
Mm-hmm.
watching this season, but it definitely has a different feeling moving forward.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
it really does, and it's what we're so with Fight Pass and ESPN and the UFC and the pay per view, we can watch fighting whenever we want to. Back when shoot, even when I was on it, there was no Fight Pass. If you wanted to watch fighting, you had to watch either the pay per view, the fight night, or Ultimate Fighter. That was it. Now it's at any time there's fights on everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, hop onto YouTube and even the UFC's putting out free fights. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I mean, I guess let's talk about, what's coming up for you fight wise. Unfortunately, your last fight, got stopped with a no contest, but do you have anything signed? Are you coming up with another fight here soon with Karate Combat?
Nothing signed, but they have told me I'm fighting July 25th, and it's supposed to be in Nashville. Nothing's official yet, but I've said yes. They said they want it. They're working on an opponent, but I live. Well, thank you. I lived real close to Nashville, so I said, dude, I'll sell that arena out, and I think they're going to do their best to make that happen.
Heck yeah, having a hometown fight seems like the best thing that could happen.
I haven't done that in a decade. I haven't fought anywhere near home in a long time.
Right. And so you're basically based in Nashville, Tennessee now, correct?
I'm in Murfreesboro, which is about 30 minutes outside of Nashville. Yeah.
Sure. Um, and before that, you were out in California with Team Quest.
Yeah, I was born and raised, spent most of my life in Wisconsin. I left Wisconsin to go get beat up by Dan Henderson for a decade. And California sucks. California is a terrible state. I had a lot of friends and made a lot of good things happen there. But as a state, it is a garbage state. uh, so I escaped there, moved to Tennessee, and I'm pretty happy here.
Sure. Any reason that you picked Tennessee or just had to get as far away from the city as you can?
So I fought here twice. I lost both times. One was the Talis, one was Derek Brunson. But I fought here, just loved it. Just got to hang out, see the area. I just fell in love with it. Wisconsin was nice, but the taxes are crazy high, and the winters are real long. Tennessee has no income tax, and the winters are very moderate. I still get the 4 seasons, but 2 of the seasons are real tepid.
Hey man, I'm basically touching Canada. It was snowing last
Yeah,
week here for me. So I
yeah.
get the long winters. It's about 9 months where it's like, am I gonna be cold today? Um,
Yeah, and I didn't want that anymore. So now it's I got a solid 3 months of being cold-ish, maybe a day or two of being real cold, and then it's back to being pretty comfortable.
I'll tell you what though. I started trying to do some cold plunges this winter, and it was really cheap for me to just throw a bucket out in my yard.
Yeah.
So I guess back to Wisconsin. I also read that you met your wife there at a Renaissance fair. Um,
Oh
I ha
yeah,
I
so
had
steak on steak.
I have to ask because the county fairs and the carnivals were big around here. It's pretty rural. So when you could get together at a fair and have people coming in from the surrounding towns, that's where you'd be, looking for girls. So kind of what's the context of you meeting your wife at a Renaissance fair?
Yeah, I was selling steak on steak, and she was selling bonnets. Her boss and a buddy of mine introduced us, and we just hit it off. And it was 18 years ago. I think we're at 10 months and 3 days. It was we've been together for a long time now. Before I ever started fighting, before she modeled, we were together. We were team us.
Wow. No, that's so cool because I mean, I don't think that that's as common of a thing these days is just finding someone when you're young like that, having your ride or die and having, your lives kind of grow intertwined together.
Hmm. Yeah, no, it's we've been blessed. It's been so nice just growing up with her.
Sure. Let me just pivot here real quick. I have a couple just wild questions for you. I'm gonna call this on the fence. So just get ready to get a little weird here. Um,
About 8 inches.
the first question I have for you is how do fish stay hydrated?
Uh, well, they live in water. They've got no choice but to be hydrated. If you see a dehydrated fish, the dead fish.
It's a good point. Next question for you. Would you rather lose your sight or your memories?
Hmm. Yeah. Um. Let's see. I'm a fighter. I couldn't do that blind. Uh, I'm gonna lose my memories to my sight. I'll make new memories.
That's a really good point. I didn't even think about that.
I'm not good enough at jujitsu to make that a career, and you can do that blind. But
Yeah. Do you see yourself, taking grappling competitions just after your fighting career is kind of older?
oh, 100%. I don't see myself winning them, but I see myself doing them.
Hey, it's the fun that counts at that point, right?
Yeah. I've got a firm motto: if you touch my ankles, I'm gonna tap.
I haven't done much jujitsu, but that's my rule too. I wrestled a little bit growing up, and so when I got in jujitsu, if they were going for my knees or ankles, I don't need to play that.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, last question for you. Um, what's the smallest animal that you're afraid of?
Uh, are spiders considered animals?
See, when I was writing this, that's kind of what I came up with too. So I would give you
Yeah,
that.
it's it's not that I'm afraid or I'm scared of them, but I'd rather them not be around.
Yeah, very understandable. Concern of time here, I'll just move on to some fan questions that I had submitted because, as you know,
Oh,
the fans are the only reason that we can do this.
bring them on.
All right. First one is coming from Alicia Siz, who happens to be my sister. So I have to, give her the first question here. Um, what's the worst injury that you've ever had?
Oh, that's a big question. So I broke my jaw twice, but the first time was bad. First time they wired it shut. It didn't hurt though. I was just wired shut for 6 weeks. The one that really hurt was the broken ribs. Those hurt a ton. I did that. I still won the fight against Carl Amasu, but I broke two ribs in that fight. The syndesmosis ligament, that was a bad one. That one was That's before I fought Talaslitis. Like on week 1 of camp, I tore my syndesmosis ligament. That camp I could do nothing but swim. I couldn't walk, run, box, nothing. I could swim. But I was buying a house and I had no choice but to fight. I needed the paycheck. So between those three, there's an answer.
All right. I'll take that. I'd probably go with the broken jaw because you were drinking out of a tube for 6 weeks. That's just
I
got to
was
be
it was
tough.
it was rough. It didn't hurt, but it was a rough one.
Yeah, that's wow. Um, Next question coming from Casey Palm 3. Can you beat Strickland in sparring?
Yes, I can beat Strickland, beat the brakes off. Make sure you tell him I said that.
If I get
No
him on,
chance.
if I get him on the podcast, I'll be sure to pass that on.
All right. He's only the champion because I left the UFC for him, so he get a clear shot at that title.
It's great to hear. And we actually touched on this a little bit, but from Ernstagram 25, is steroid use in MMA ethically worse than in other sports?
Only if it's against the rules. Yeah, if the rules don't say you can't take them, then go for it. If the rules are you can't take them and you do, no, that's dangerous.
Yeah,
Uh,
I
I mean,
agree. I guess
it's like have you ever seen those night fights? You know, the dressed in suits of armor with the
sure.
sword and stuff.
Yep.
If the rule is you can use a sword, use a sword. If the rule if the rule is you cannot use a sword and you show up with a sword, you're going to win, and it's cheating.
Yep. I saw one clip of one of those duels, and a guy got him with a head kick, and I was so impressed that a dude in armor got his leg up to land a head kick.
I'm
Um,
trying so hard to get into that. I just don't have a suit of armor.
hey, I got a sword for you right here, so
Oh
I'm halfway
yeah.
there.
Oh, is that the sword from Troy?
Yeah, it is a gladius.
Yeah, Troy.
Yep. So I'm definitely with you. I'm a little small. I don't think I'd want to get in there, but um, swords have definitely been a big part of my life. Um, Question from Jack Salatino. What's your favorite farm animal?
hmm. Not the pig. Uh, I like my chickens. The pig and the turkey are on the bottom of the list, but I like my chickens.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess I'll just couple off that. How do you balance, farming and fighting and your food truck and your family and
I
who
have
knows what else
no
you're doing?
idea. I have no idea. We just make it work. There's not. It is just a constant scramble to not sink. But we do it. We haven't sank yet.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you're still treading water and keeping your head above that water, then, keep doing exactly what you're doing would be my advice. Um, Question from If and Lost. How has the UFC changed during your time with the promotion?
Well, for me, a long time because I was with it for so long. Reebok became a thing. Venom became a
Yep.
thing. USADA became a thing. So those are the three biggest ones. ESPN became a thing. Um, and so there were a lot of changes in my time in there. Conor McGregor became a thing.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, when I was looking back, I mean, I think you had 24 fights or something like that, which, you
Yep.
know, expanded everything that you said. But another, probably the biggest change I think would be COVID and just fighting in front of no fans. Like the
Yeah, that sucked. The Apex Center, God, I hate the Apex Center. The Apex Center changed, and no fighter likes that.
right. And I mean, it really just changed the promotion's outlook, I think, too. They just wanted to get to the model of pumping out fights, getting a fight on the screen every single Saturday, and just that feeling when the crowd would roar and you would just see, Bruce Buffer would come on and say that it's time. Just didn't feel the same when you don't have, 10, 20,000 people screaming down on you.
Yeah, it was. They stopped giving fighters personality. And so they were just trying to see if anyone did something above average, and it's harder to sell yourself.
Yeah. I mean, the one benefit to it was you could hear the coaches, you could hear the shots landing. It did feel like it was, somewhat intimate, but man, when the first show came back, which you were on the first, pay-per-view.
It was the first fight of the first card
Yeah,
post COVID. Me and Ryan Spann, we single handedly restarted the world's economy.
seriously. And I mean, to this day, I think that's probably, the most memorable fight of yours that I have. I mean, you fought legends. You fought, Rashad Evans and Nate Marquardt and Lil Nog. But there was something about just that break in fighting that when you came back and we had a pay-per-view again was just stunning.
Yeah, 100%. I love the opportunity. That is the only card in my career where I was the first fight of the night.
Wow. Well, it's a cool card to have that as a
Yes.
All right, last question for you. Since we have it coming up, Connor versus Chandler. Who wins?
I think Connor wins this one. Yeah, Connor wins. Chandler is. I like Chandler. He's one of the most entertaining fighters that has ever been. Like I will tune into every one of his fights, but he's also one of the dumbest fighters I've ever seen. Like he'll be winning, and then he'll just like, oh yeah, I need to put my hands down and run into him face first. And it's like every fight that's his change. And Conor McGregor will just take advantage of it. Conor McGregor will find is fast enough, is decent enough wrestling defense that he can land that shot.
Yep. If Connor is half of the man that he was before the injury, I think he's going to be way too sharp for Chandler to come crashing in.
I agree. I agree.
Awesome. Well, I'm not going to take much more of your time. I just want to, give you one last thing. What's next for Sam Alvey?
Hey, I'm hoping to be fighting in July. I'm growing my YouTube channel, Smiling Sam, on all social media. Check me out, and thank you for having me on, my friend.
Perfect. I'll have all of your links in the description below. My policy is I don't want to be like normal media. If I'm ever in Tennessee, I'll try to stop by your gym. We'll get a roll or something in. If you don't like what I say, I want you to be able to beat me up at least.
Oh yeah, even if I do, I'll beat you up. I love it.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks so much, Sam.
All right, see you later, my friend.
Yep. Take care. All right. Episode 1 completed. How was cool with Sam Alvey? Thank you. Thank you. That was super fun. Episode 1, the UFC podcast featuring Sam Alvey. We're only going to get better from here. Let's go.